So well, this isn't anything new. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but
Shocker.
A podcaster listening to podcasts. Who knew that was even a thing? And some of those are ones that actually get recommended to me by listeners. They're like, oh, you got to listen to this. You got to check this out. Like,
Yeah.
I'd never listen to Tucker Carlson if someone didn't say, here, listen to Tucker Carlson. You got to check this episode out. This is crazy.
You
and
do
I
a
understand
lot of homework. Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand why. Like after I listen to it, I'm like, I got it. Why you guys had me listen to this or whatever. And I totally understand. And there's other ones that, I'm a fan of and I listen to them. And, a lot of those fit into what could be called the conspiracy space, now.
It comes up frequently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I don't say that negatively or pejoratively because, here's the thing. Like, I agree and have said often for many, many years with the sentiment that the world is run by secret societies, not governments.
You have
100%.
said that for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm with you. So I guess that makes me a conspiracy theorist. Right.
That plus the other 374 times that you have talked about conspiracy theories that
sure.
you support or believe in.
Sure.
Or think there's evidence for.
Right. So
Not that anyone's counting.
exactly. Right. So, me listening to conspiracy podcasts, again, not knocking them and I'm a fan. Okay.
A fan of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. And so, I collect them like trading cards, but, I've come to a realization of just how important the show is that we're doing. And folks, we're going to get into great stuff. We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about Conjuring the Dead. We got all kinds of crazy stuff to get into. And I just want to open up with this for a minute. Okay. I feel it's essential that this show be done.
You've listened to a podcast lately.
A few.
Actually, a lot of podcasts
Yes.
that have been talking about things that you feel you're an expert in.
Yes.
And you have been disappointed by these shows, by their lack of discovery of the true history
Yeah.
that is behind the Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, to try and have some brevity, which I'm terrible at. So,
That's what I'm here for.
yeah, that's what you're here for.
Keep you on the right path.
Exactly. Look, these podcasts, it's just always coming up. Oh, the Jews are doing this. The, Kabbalah is the philosophy or ideology or religion of the elites. And, I keep hearing this stuff and I'm like, okay, so if this is the metric, according to conspiracy podcasts, that the Jews are basically the most important thing on the planet. They're either running everything or they're the most important pawn, or Kabbalah is the devil, or, all this different stuff. The reality of what I hear are often people who, and I say this actually respectfully, who do not understand. They don't understand these subjects because they don't live them, for one. And that's where I say this with respect. Ellen, you're a biological engineer, right? That's the title.
Yeah, I'm a bioengineer, chemical engineer.
Sure.
I work in cell therapy, so
Sure.
there's a cross section there.
Yeah. Now that took years.
Science.
Right. Now that took years of torture in the university system and whatever else.
I was taught a method of thinking and also a very specialized body of knowledge.
Exactly. Right. And I know I have some understanding of what you had to go through, because I was there.
You witnessed
with you.
it.
Yeah, I witnessed it. What you had to go through to learn all that. Now, here's the thing. Look, being a Jew, for one, that's a whole life. Okay, that's a whole thing.
It's the same thing, though, right? It's not just a specialized body of knowledge. It's also a way of thinking.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
And it's a lifestyle, too.
Yes.
When you truly understand these things, you
Yes.
incorporate it into your practices.
Right. That's why when somebody tells me, oh, Mark Zuckerberg is a Kabbalist or something, I'm like, no, he's fucking not. I know a Kabbalist when I see one. You can smell them. And I mean that almost literally.
It's in their personality.
Yeah,
right?
it
becomes part of them.
It's unavoidable. Yeah. It's so deep. These subjects are so deep. You have to spend, and this is why I say this with respect, that these people don't know what they're talking about. You cannot go on Wikipedia and understand Kabbalah. You cannot go and I love this man, you cannot go and just watch Justin Sledge for a few hours and know Kabbalah.
You can't read one book about Jacob Frank and know Kabbalah.
And you can't know Jacob Frank with one book. You cannot. But people are talking about these subjects as if the world depends on it, as if life depends on it, as if everybody's lives depended on it. But they don't know. And you can listen to them and you hear it. And like, I hear some people say like, oh, well, Trump is a Kabbalist and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, like pick up any of you listening, pick up the Book of Bahir. This is an easy one. Barnes and Noble might even carry this one. Small text. You don't even have to buy it. You should, but you don't have to. Pick up the Book of Bahir, read through that. And you look at Donald Trump and you tell me that motherfucker has any idea what that book means. There's no way. There's just no way.
I don't even know when the last time was he read a book.
Right? But this is Kabbalah, folks. And so anyway, I've come to the realization, again, I'm trying to be brief, failing, but I'm trying. And we've got great subjects to get into. I've come to the realization of just how important doing this show is. And in fact, it has to expand a little bit. And I'm going to be doing essay episodes, and we're going to go square one. Like how to understand the Bible. What is the Bible? Things like this. Okay. Then, like how to read it, not just in a scholarly way, but in a Kabbalistic way, in a mystical way, all of this stuff that for some reason, very few people talk about. And in so doing, hopefully like elucidating some of this. And I mean, I'm not saying that, maybe some elitists follow some bastardized version of this stuff.
What do you mean when you say elitist? 'Cause
Yeah.
when you said this earlier, I was thinking, like, yes, there are very elite people that practice this, but that doesn't mean that they're, like, political or financial elites.
Yeah, fair. I like the term controller class. Like that's,
Puppeteer class.
Yeah, the puppeteer class, whatever. And so we need to go over it. And I want people to know the signs and understand, even if they don't grok it, even if you don't want to be a Kabbalist or a mystic or anything like this, I want you to know the complexity of this stuff so that you can readily see, no, that person's not a Kabbalist. So you know Kabbalah when you see it. So, not just Kabbalah, but like, so you have a greater understanding of the Bible. You'll know why so many Christians are full of crap. You'll know why so many Jews are full of crap. You'll know all of, I want to go over this stuff.
What's the one dead giveaway for you that would tell you that somebody is not a Kabbalist? And I think for me, if I could start, the answer would be somebody who has a very strong sense of right and wrong. Somebody who paints the world in very much black and white, good and evil, friend and enemy.
That means they're not a Kabbalist, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100. You got it. 100%. like if they have this strong sense of morality, nope, they missed it. Their head is playing on such a tiny level. Sorry, folks.
As tiny as Donald Trump's.
Wahoo! That'll get us banned off of YouTube, but I don't care.
So, you can bleep it out. I don't care.
No. But yeah. Yeah, I mean that would probably be one of the first ones that I would look at. But I think you hit at probably the best one, because in Kabbalah, again, you're playing on the biggest scale. And like, if that person is talking in, an incredibly like limited, kind of earthly terms, like, oh, give me a break. And I'm by no means saying I'm the arbiter of truth. Quite the opposite. I'm not doing interpretation here. I am like laying out what sages have said for thousands of years. So anyway, there's going to be, I'll be doing essays. Like they'll be they're not bonus episodes. I wouldn't call them that. They're just extensions of what Sexoterica is. And I think that they are incredibly necessary, because if you believe that Kabbalah is this grand evil, if you believe that the Jews are running everything, then this is the single most important podcast series I guarantee you could listen to, because nobody else out there has taken the time that it takes to understand this stuff. Guaranteed.
Except for Justin Sledge.
Sledge is great. Sledge is fucking great. I think, yeah, Sledge is great. I'm going to leave that at that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this show is very important for people to understand. And if you're someone like me who didn't grow up with this as part of your life, something that was ingrained in you since childhood, then this is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I've found it very important in my life to understand this, to understand you better, but also I think it helps understand the universe at large.
Exactly.
Better.
You hit it.
And that's why this show is going to be so helpful, I think, for people to kind of walk back from the ledge of whatever fear-incited podcasts that you've been listening to that are talking about how, like, Jews and Kabbalah is evil, they're running the world.
Right.
Like Jacob Frank was telling people to, you know, sin through redemption, which is awful. Like, these are all takes that are clearly superficial and not really hitting at the truth. So I'm glad that you're here to help educate everyone. I'm here too to help travel along this path and help keep us on schedule too.
Yes, thank you.
Because while we're doing this podcast, which is very important, we still have to deliver the goods. And we've made promises to our listeners. You know?
Absolutely.
Last episode, we said we were going to talk about Ouija boards, which we are going to get to in this episode.
Yes.
We're also going to talk about a recent experience we had, no surprise, on mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we might as well get right into that. But folks, get ready, for these. I already have them like all set up, and I'm very excited to get these out there. And I just... I've been sitting on them a little bit, but recently, just with the conversations going on, I'm like, holy shit, like this is, I'm not saying this, I wish it wasn't. I don't want it to be the most important shit out there, but in my opinion, it absolutely is. Because there's people out there who are saying, oh, yep, this is all taking us to hell in a handbasket, and forget it.
It's been bothering you.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. And a lot of these people I respect who are saying this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it's always a pity.
Yeah, it shows that you've been listening to for years.
Exactly right. And it's like, wow, man, you're like for 2 seconds, could you question what exactly is sin? Like, could you do something for me? Anyway, okay, enough of that. Let's talk about, well, how's that song go? Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about you and me.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. But again, folks, even if you don't believe in any of this stuff, believe me, it's applicable to you, because if you believe that everybody's run the show, even if you don't think that, a lot of people do. So it's time to listen in, and let's talk about it. So
it's a great philosophical debate, even if you don't believe in the spirituality or religious aspects of it. Right.
I mean, even if you're somebody like accelerationism, like, oh boy, you better understand Kabbalah. Like, man. Anyway, and that gets all over Silicon Valley. And if there's anything I can talk about, it sure as hell is that. But that's not what I want to talk about. Like I said, I want to talk about sex, damn it.
That's true. Before we started the show, Brian came up to me and said, we have to talk about sex.
What's in the name of the show?
It has to be in this episode.
Sexoterica, baby. So let's do this. Okay. So we're taking mushrooms. We're doing it.
We're taking mushrooms.
Well, I mean, we did recently.
Oh, I thought you had some.
Oh, no.
We're going to take them on air.
I'm not opposed to doing that. Neither are so many of these controlling class. They get right on stage and do it. Anyway, okay. So we did mushrooms. Now, I want to be clear on this, folks.
These are mushrooms that I procured.
Yeah, that, right. We found on the side of the road somehow. So...
We tested them for quality and safety.
Right, exactly. As you do. You find something on this, like you find a cigarette butt on the side of the road. It's like, oh, I better smoke it to make sure it's okay.
Hey, that was back in my teenage years. Don't throw that in my face. I haven't done that for over a decade.
Good for you.
Thank you. And I'm better off for it.
Damn right. So, okay.
So it wasn't just mushrooms. It was also the vines and leaf of the yage, which we made a brew of.
It's our ayahuasca.
Yes.
Yeah.
The yage leaf, the yage vines, and mushrooms. It's our divine brew, our ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good time. I thought it was great.
Oh, it was an incredibly positive experience. The thing I wanted to say was, like, before anybody thinks, wow, all these guys do is talk about drugs and all they do is drugs. Folks, we hadn't done an entheogen. What is it? It'd probably been like 6 months.
It's been a long time.
It had been a long time. Like, no. I say this over and over again, and I know as somebody who is straight edge, this stuff is not addictive. If anything, it's like, oh, this is going to take a lot of time. Like life gets in the way of you doing these things. Okay.
So part of the reason we talk about it so much on this show is because they provide an altered state of consciousness in which we're able to explore the subtle energetic realms of existence.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't normally get access to.
Right.
In your normal daily consciousness.
Right. Not to say that you can't, but this is definitely something that that can definitely help the process along. So I guess where to start on this? We consume them and
so there's an experience at the beginning that I'd love to talk about, but it doesn't fit into this episode. So next time, I think we're going to have an episode talking about chakras and energy centers and ruach.
Yeah.
But we'll save that for next episode.
Yeah, very important subject to get into.
Yes.
You had a very direct experience with this that I think we need to discuss and expand upon.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of that.
There was a physical reality that I encountered that leads me to want to talk about this subject more, and I'm excited to have that exploration.
Yeah.
But we'll skip over that for now.
Yeah.
Even though it's a very exciting subject.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what came next, which was we put on some EDM music.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. We just started dancing.
Yeah, well, you and I were having an experience together with our energy centers.
Right.
And I was like, you know what we need right now? We need some music.
Yeah.
And I love listening to EDM music.
Yes.
I have been dancing to EDM for over a decade.
Right.
I used to go to raves all the time.
Right.
I used to, listen to happy hardcore and collect candy. It was
hell yeah.
It was a whole lifestyle for me for a few years. But we decided to do that because, it felt like we needed some of that flowing energy. We needed some of that positive, uplifting energy.
Yeah.
And this was Christmas night, too, by the way.
Yeah, this is a hell of a Christmas.
This was our Christmas celebration.
Not that we really celebrate Christmas, but...
No, not really.
But Hanukkah was just a couple of days previous. Anyway, go. Yeah.
Yeah, so... we're listening to music, and this is my Pandora station that's been catered to me for years.
You've carefully crafted this.
Yes.
These are your creme de la creme of EDM songs. I mean, these are some of the best, in your opinion, in history, and you've listened to them a million times. I think that's really important to lay out in what we're going to describe or what we're going to discuss. So, continue.
Yeah, and some of this EDM music, I'll just say, some of it is kind of trance-like in the sense that, I could put this on while I'm working and it wouldn't distract me. So there's a lot of different genres in EDM. And
of course.
I don't want to go down this whole road of
I might have
being a
Sophia.
genre
We'll do a write-up
police.
for her to do that.
But
The history of electronic dance music, or EDM, is a story of humanity merging with the machine, a digital pulse that mimics the very beating of the human heart. It is a raw primal force dressed in the complex circuitry of the modern age. The story of EDM truly begins in the late 1970s and early 1980s. While disco was breathing its last glittery breaths, pioneers like Kraftwerk in Germany were stripping away the human element of rock and soul, replacing it with the cold, precise perfection of synthesizers. This electronic seed traveled to the American Midwest. In Detroit, it became techno, futuristic and industrial. In Chicago, it became known as house music, soulful, sweaty, and built on the ruins of disco. By the late 1980s, this sound crossed the Atlantic to the UK and Europe, exploding into the rave phenomenon. It was the summer of love all over again, but this time fueled by ecstasy and relentless, repetitive beats. Today, EDM is a massive global industry, but its roots remain in those dark, smoky warehouses where the rhythm was the only master. This master has many different subgenres within itself. While a musical genre that has been around for decades would take many podcast series to truly grok, Here is a sampling of some of the more well-known genres of EDM. Acid house is the chemical burn of the genre. It is hypnotic, squelchy, and deeply psychedelic. The defining characteristic is the Roland TB 303 bass synthesizer. When manipulated, or tweaked in real time, it produces that signature squelch or whoomp sound that feels like it's twisting inside your mind. Its origins are mid-80s Chicago, but it found its true cult following in the UK rave scene. It is the sound of the smiley face logo and the illegal warehouse party. Also extremely popular, trance music is emotional, epic, and euphoric. If house is for the body, trance is for the spirit. It is designed to induce a state of heightened consciousness, a trance, purely through sonic repetition and melodic climax. It's faster than house, usually 125 to 150 beats per minute, and it relies heavily on long, sweeping breakdowns where the beat drops away, leaving only atmospheric synthesizers before building up to a massive, explosive drop. It dominated the 1990s and early 2000s, particularly coming out of Germany and the Netherlands. Think Paul van Dyk, or Armin van Buuren, or Dr. Sovryn's personal favourite, BT. Happy Hardcore, on the other hand, is a personal favourite of Ellen Sovryn. It is unapologetically manic and fiercely joyful. It rejects the dark coolness of techno for pure sugar-rushed energy. The sound comprises of extremely fast tempos, 160 to 180 beats per minute. It often features chipmunk vocals, sped-up samples, simple, catchy melodies, and a stomping 4/4 beat. It is the musical equivalent of a candy overdose, emerging in the UK and Netherlands in the 90s as a reaction to the darker, moodier jungle and techno scenes. This is just a taste of the EDM scene, and exploring its depths is a journey that is not only fun, but as you'll learn, can have deep sensual rewards.
Some of this music was trance, some of it was techno, so it was kind of a bit of a mix. And again, yeah, these are songs I've listened to over and over again over the years.
Right.
And that's it's like positive energy, good vibes. I love that kind of music.
Yeah, I mean, with what we were feeling, you wanted something uplifting.
Yeah, definitely.
You weren't wanting to, go down any depths of darkness.
No, and I don't think I could have.
Right.
I was just feeling very light and positive,
right.
And I wanted to dance. So we put on the music, and you and I started dancing. You were having a great time. It looked like you were having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous. In fact, can I tell a little secret here that I don't think I've ever told on any show?
What's the secret?
I espouse and live the gym life. Okay. Like I am so very much about bodybuilding, go work out. There's a picture of Jay Cutler. You can't see this on camera, folks. But there's a picture of Jay Cutler, right in front of me, signed to me.
Yes,
I am there.
We went to a bodybuilding show and got him
to hang out with it. Yeah, that was amazing. Okay. So the reason that I've always said, just figure out what your reason is for why you want to, be fit and look good. Okay. And if it's just because you want to look good naked, that's completely valid. I've said that so many times, and I've had people email me and said, Brian, yeah, I just want to look good naked. And man, some of the physiques I've seen of listeners, they did the work, but I'm honored to have inspired them. Anyway, when you are fit, here's the deal. For me, it's not about looking good naked. I mean, that's nice. But when you are fit, it doesn't matter what you wear or what you do. You always look good because you're always a little intimidating. You're always like, well, he can't be that crazy. Look what he does in the gym. You know what I mean? Clearly. Right. And
yeah, there's a way of carrying yourself.
Right. I love being wacky on the dance floor. I love dancing. I'm a roller skating champion, quite literally. I love moving and grooving. Okay.
And you went to your first rave with me. What was it? A year ago? About?
Oh, it was last winter. Yeah, you're right. Oh, that was amazing, man. Fucking the whole night ended with the Imperial March playing. Are you telling me I wasn't meant to be there? Oh, I was meant to be.
Know the power of the dark side.
Man, little cell dweller going, holy shit, I was moving. Okay. So, but this is my point. Like, I like doing ridiculous shit. And when you're fit, nobody says anything and nobody cares. Okay. And so, so there's my secret. Why, Brian? What gets you in the gym? Yeah, I like to look good for my wife. Okay. But at the same time, I also,
And you do.
I also like to not have to explain myself for anything in anything that I want to do. And that includes getting freaky on the dance floor. Okay.
Which was our living room.
Yeah, which was our living room in this case. And
But
we
you were getting freaky.
We were getting freaky for sure. So, okay. So, and freaky to the point, we're dancing, the music's great. We're dancing.
Our house is a little cold, so I wanted to warm up, and we were dancing and we got really warm. And
to the point we started taking clothes off.
Yeah, we're taking our clothes off.
Yeah.
And you were like, you were asking me to take all of my clothes off, and I was like,
yes,
okay, whatever, sure.
Yes.
But you have to too, and it just, the naked dancing while tripping. I think it evolved quite naturally into a sexual situation.
Yeah.
It didn't happen instantaneously. Like,
no,
we were dancing for some time.
Right.
But I found it amazing, like, having that skin to skin contact, listening to this music that I have loved for so long, and having this sort of like spiritual experience all together was completely new to me. Like, I've never been to a rave before where people have been allowed to be fully naked, but it totally made sense. Like, the music, the feeling of the music, the way that the lyrics are written, the energy of, like the chorus and the verses, and all of the, the sounds and the tempo, like, everything was just leading up to this very natural sort of intimate encounter. And I was hearing that music, like, for the first time, it felt. In the context that I think it made the most sense in. Like, it was made for that situation of, like, being very intimate and close and naked and having a sexual experience.
So let's talk about this a little bit. So it got to a point where you, like, just started naturally, like, kind of rubbing, and I mean, you have just the most gorgeous ass. Okay. And it was bare, and it was rubbing on my cock. We're just dancing. Okay.
But you always try to rub your dick on me.
Well, like, yes, I always kind of maneuver that for sure. But, but you were also doing it very naturally. Okay. And yes, I'm turned on. And part of that, and I want to talk about this too, was just seeing, I mean, your body is amazing. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that people, can go to, like, the Fans of Only and see that, but maybe they can. But anyway, so, but your body is amazing. Okay. And I am seeing, like, this, and I'll say the term conventionally, like, such a curvaceous body, like, I'm seeing all these curves move with the music to the point that it was like moving, like, time was dilated, felt like it was dilated in such a way that your movements could have been causing, like, the next note, or it could have been the other way around. Like, you were moving to the music, or the music was moving to you. Like, the music, it felt like the music was, like, dancing off of you.
You thought I was commanding the music.
Yeah, it was really impressive what was happening there. Okay. And again, it wouldn't have worked if you just weren't this amazing, soft, curvaceous figure. That was
Why wouldn't it have worked?
I mean, this is where like a man, I just don't think it works that way.
Yeah, I think so. If I can tangentially discuss dancing for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about, like, woo, have fun dancing.
Right.
Like, when I dance, it is an all-encompassing experience.
Right.
It's something that I feel is trance and spiritual at the same time. Like my whole body experiences the dance. It's not
right.
just something that I do like to have fun per se. Like, yes, it is fun, but like I become part of the music when I'm dancing.
In a real way, like you're giving into it.
Like I'm part of the song.
Yeah, you're like part of the song. Right. And great music can allow for that, where it brings you in. All great art, it's not just music. All great art is does that to you, because it's a connective experience with the universe at large. Art is a connection with the divine. And I think we certainly experienced that. But and absolutely. And so I'm not saying, look, by no means am I saying guys can't dance or look incredible and sexy doing it. Of course they can. So
but do you think men become enraptured in the music in that way?
I think it's not the same. It's just not the same. And look, I am such a huge fan of like Two Unlimited, and also like I am on board with dudes dancing and going nuts, but it is not the same thing. It is not the same hypnotic, like trance. That I mean, there's a reason belly dancing has existed for thousands of years. Okay. but regardless of that, there's a very different energy that when a woman particularly like is embodied, it's just incomparable. And I saw that. Okay. And just watching that alone, I want to talk about the sex, but just watching that alone. I mean, I'm a fan of EDM. Like I've listened to BT since I was a teenager, I mean, like, I get it, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand EDM music truly, and why people are so hot about it until like that night, until Christmas night. And part of that was in seeing like, wow, this is like what this music, kind of engenders, inspires. It was so powerful. But what ends up happening is you and I end up having, we end up having sex. Like I end up bending you over, and
there's a lot of different positions we did. I don't think we have to go into all those details.
We can go into them, but so, what, folks? You don't want to hear about it? I mean, come on, get on YouTube or video on Spotify. Tell me you don't want to, please. Anyway, so
like there's a lot of smooth, continuous, fluid motions, and I think both of us were already feeling really good, and we just wanted to have even more closeness, even more connection. And I think that the sex kind of flowed naturally from that.
Right. And this is really, really key. Okay. So we started doing it, and we did it a lot, and I mean, I
don't know how much time passed.
Yeah, we have no idea. Yeah, but we're just fucking like crazy. And now, not to say, like, I'll admit that there were points where I wasn't as in tune with the music as you were. And I think there were points where I kind of like dropped us out of it, because I'm just going like one speed, like, Brian, fuck hard, like that's just what I do, like
that's your shtick.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. So, and that's not always what the moment called for, and it was a very enlightening experience that I don't know if I need to talk about the lessons learned from that right now exactly. But I think what is really interesting was what you were saying earlier. And I really want to hear more from you on this, where you felt like, I know these songs, but you know these songs backwards and forwards, but you never truly experienced them. This is kind of how you were saying it to me after the fact, until you were there on the dance floor having sex to this music. And, like when you said it, I'm like, yeah, like that's exactly how I felt as well, is that like, I've never really experienced this music until just now. And in fact, like, I've always had a little bit of an issue with like the idea, it's never really worked out for me, where like you see this in movies sometimes where people are literally listening to music and having sex. And I'm like, yeah, but the music kind of takes over, and sometimes it doesn't lend itself well to sexual motions, to sex in general. As to where with this was not the case. This absolutely lent itself. And your argument was, in fact, it's the point.
Yeah, so I think dancing and sex share in common a lot of themes.
For sure.
One of them being, there's some give and there's some take. And that's something that we were trying to balance while doing all of this.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I think for most music it would take away from it because a lot of music is very egocentric for the artist. But when it comes to EDM music, especially like trance, techno, house music, things like that, they're meant to be like, they're providing you the energy. It's like surfing on a wave. It's like providing you with the environment to really flourish and to express yourself. But the music isn't like overbearing. It's not like the only expression that you're able to focus on. So that's kind of why I love listening to that sort of music and dancing to it, because it allows you that space where you can express yourself.
Right.
And it's just providing you with that like positive, feel good environment to do so in. But I think you're right in that, like, I have never heard this music in this way before, because usually when I listen to it, either I'm trying to focus on working and it's kind of just like quietly playing in the background, or if I'm at a rave or a dance event of some kind, like there's usually just a huge crowd of people in one large room. Maybe there's a few other rooms where there's like different DJs playing, but in general, it's like a very public, open space. And because of the geographic location in which we live, like nudity isn't allowed, like public sexual acts are not allowed. So it's, for me, it's never escalated to that point. Like I've never had that experience where we're dancing and listening to this music and doing drugs and having sex. Like if that happens in hotel rooms, sure. If that happens at people's houses, yes. But like that's never happened at an event. And I think that's the part where I have, I guess like more of that revelatory feeling of like, this is what this music is made for.
Right. Well, your statement to me was, how has this never happened before? Like for you, even, because again, you've been listening to this shit forever, you know, and you're no prude. Like,
and usually when we go to these events, or like when I've gone in the past, stay until like 2 a.m, whenever it ends, and then go back to the hotel room or the house or whatever, and just being so tired and so dehydrated that like all you can do is go to sleep.
Right.
There is no like sexual orgiastic, expression or experience happening. And if that does happen at these events, like it must happen pretty early on in the night. Like people would have to leave. They'd go back to some place where it's private. There's no like, private rooms on the side of whatever event venue, where you can just go have some privacy to have your intimate experiences and then come back out to the party. I feel like that would make so much sense, but like I've never seen that before. I don't know if I'm just not going to the right places, but
yeah, I mean, maybe, well, we don't want to go to any of Diddy's parties. But
God,
no freakouts. It's a weird thing because here's the deal. Like, and I think like Chris Knowles, who I'm a big fan of Christopher Knowles' work. He's written stuff on this, like in The Secret History of Rock and Roll. I don't think it was in our Gods Wear Spandex, though. That's a great book too, that I read a long, long time ago. But anyway, like he's talked about how, like modern concerts, that's not even raves, but like modern concerts really are just replicating a lot of like cultish gatherings. And when I say, I mean anthropological cults,
like
not
Mithraic cults.
Yeah, like Mithraic cults and things like this. And I think when I read it, I'm like, yeah, of course. And I was like, cool, at the same time. And so we have like this mechanism, like why do people love concerts? Why do they like raves? And I was somebody who was not in like the pro rave camp by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I've talked about that before. I won't spend, it has to do with Riddick and Pitch Black and all that. I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay. But anyway, I've talked about it years ago, but
what about like the opening scene of Blade?
Yeah, right. Like something like that. Okay. Now, again, I'm sure this probably does happen somewhere, but okay. So, but you have popular access to these things in things like raves, like ones we've gone to, or, or concerts, or, whatever. Okay. So you have like the symbols are there, but the passion isn't there. And so we're only getting like half of the story. And so the bulk of civilization is like, acting out in a hollow shell. It's all ultimately very shallow. What's going on. And I get it why it also does. Cause like your question was, why doesn't this happen more? And I can understand why. Like, how do you trust the medical condition of the person dancing next to you? To where like, even if nudity and sex was allowed, like, do you really trust the person in front of you to have sex with them? And that's the thing. These kinds of acts are very deeply, I think they're very deeply ingrained in us, evolutionarily, genetically, but they come out of our tribal system. And I don't say that pejoratively. Tribalism, like having your tribe is a very good thing, but in a tribe, you do have like a trust, right? Like the trust system does exist.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying go to dance events and hook up with random
No,
strangers.
I know you're
that's
not. Yeah.
not a good idea.
Right. Right.
Because you do need to trust who you're with.
Right.
And you need to know that you're not going to get any sort of medical condition
right.
from being with them.
Right.
Or that you will like return home the next day.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of reasons why it's important to trust people. When you are, getting vulnerable and intimate.
Right.
So I'm definitely not saying like do drugs and hook up with people.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even a fan of some drugs that happen to be taken at parties.
Exactly.
There's very specific ones that I think are helpful, and then there's some that I think are just not worth the risk. Especially nowadays with so many drugs being cut with, I'll just say poison, straight up poison. You just never know. Unless it's something that you've gotten from a trustworthy source. So there's a lot of caveats to what we're saying, I think.
Oh, for sure.
But, and I just want to say, like, if there was going to be a sort of like sexual dance encounter, I would want it to be like at a house party where there's only people that I know and trust.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I know there's sex club. Believe me, I know. I know there, like this stuff kind of does exist, but for most people, again, it's like we have the symbols and the signals, but no one's allowed to act on it. You know what I mean? And I think it really fucks with our heads.
It's hard to break into that too, like to get that sort of opportunity to hook up with someone. Like I've been to so many parties and nobody has like tried to hook up with me directly in that way. And like maybe that's because they can tell I'm autistic or I was with somebody, but like maybe once somebody actually directly hit on me, but they were like messed up out of their mind. So I'm just saying, like it's hard for most people, I think, to like go to a party and have that opportunity. Right. But yeah, you're totally right that most people don't even know that is an option. Yeah. Yeah. Like I had sort of a naive opinion of these parties for a very long time, thinking that, there's a large community in the rave community. It's very focused around this concept of plur, which is peace, love, unity, and respect. And it's a very close-knit community. There's a strong belief in like respecting everyone that's there. Even if people are practically naked and on drugs and having a great time, you're supposed to respect and protect those people around you. Yeah. And I really appreciate that is such a central and core focus. But, there's always a dark side to that. And on the other end of that are people who are like trying to take advantage of those who are not fully in their right mind. Right. So it's a balancing act, I think, and I've never had to experience the dark side of that, fortunately. Yeah. At least not directly. And I hope that always stays true. and I hope that when people go to these events that they do stay safe, just being aware that like there are people who are ready to take advantage of somebody who is not fully able to control themselves.
Yeah. So absolutely, and a really great point, to bring up. Again, that trust factor is everything.
PLUR, standing for peace, love, unity and respect, is a charming little code. A fascinating sociological study in how a chaotic, often drug-fueled swarm attempts to maintain itself without the iron hand of an actual ruler. While PLUR may sound like soft-hearted hippie sentiment, it is actually a necessary survival mechanism that could expand well beyond the bounds of the rave. The term was not born in a field of flowers, but in the gritty darkness of Dr. Sovryn's own hometown of New York City. The legend goes back to the early 90s, specifically to Frankie Bones and his storm raves. During a particularly volatile party in the Bronx, a fight broke out. The violence threatened to destroy the event and likely bring down the hammer of the police. Bones, acting as the high priest of the decks, stopped the music, grabbed the microphone, and famously yelled, "You better start showing some peace, love, and unity, or I'll break your fucking faces." While the threat of violence was unnecessary, the energy of the statement was the right tonic, with the concept of respect added later to complete the acronym. It was an imposition of will to maintain the sanctity of the ritual. On the surface, it looks like equality, but if we look deeper, it is a social container designed to keep the ravers functioning under extreme intensity. Peace, with the surface meaning, is non-violence and calmness. But the deeper truth is that in a crowd of thousands, often chemically altered, aggression is a contagion. Peace is the suppression of the urge to fight for territory. It ensures the survival of the group. Love's surface meaning, but also important meaning, is evident. Unconditional affection and kindness. The deeper truth with PLUR is that love is the glue. It mimics the deep tribal bonding of ancient rites. With PLUR enticing a sense of family, the crowd becomes a single organism rather than a collection of potential threats. Unity, we are all one. While such phrasing is generally dangerous among the masses, it does point at the deeper truth of a certain dissolution of the ego. This can be experienced as a liberation. The dancing crowd merges into a faceless ocean, allowing the music to be the sole dominant force. Respect, on the surface, is simply tolerance for others and the environment. The deeper truth here is that it can be seen as the rule of law in a lawless zone. Respect the vibe effectively means do not be the weak link that breaks the trance. We are all here for pleasure, but there is no true pleasure without respect, and without respect, there is no love. So you see, PLUR is not about weakness. It is the discipline required to sustain the high. Without it, the rave collapses. It is the beautiful anarchy that allows the masses to touch the divine for a few hours. Indeed, what would the world be like if such ideas were applied beyond the festival?
I want to ask you some questions, okay, on this. Because I actually think that this is really important because again, music is everywhere, especially today, more so than ever, and I think there's value in paying attention to what it is you're exactly listening to and not letting it be it shouldn't be a passive experience, in my opinion. I mean, it's one thing, yeah, video game music's great in the background. Okay, fine. But there's a lot of things where it's not a passive, it's an active experience, and we've lost the opportunity to engage in an active experience. And what actually should that active experience look like? Or what is it meant to look like? How can you truly express the music? So express what you're feeling through the music. So part of what I want to ask is, do you think, you were enlightened by this yes, we were on entheogens. Okay. do you think somebody has to be on entheogens to have this full experience that you described, where like there's either the realization or the enjoyment of listening to this music and, say, having sex while it's playing?
So I have listened to this music for years, again,
Right.
like we discussed. And again, like being on entheogens and being with you alone at home,
Trust factors there.
it was like I was listening to this all for the first time, but experiencing it more fully than I ever have before, because not only were we dancing, but we were together, we were having an intimate experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of this music focuses on, because I think what a lot of musicians know is that the most beautiful thing in life is love.
Yes.
And having that closeness with another person. And that's why there's so many songs about love and about intimacy and about just being together with someone or having a great time together, you know? And what better time to have together than, you know, having intercourse? And I think there's a lot of things that come close to that. Like, you and I love to play video games together.
Sure.
Sometimes to the point where, like, okay, now it's too late. We can't have sex. But we accept the consequences
Sure.
because we're having a great time playing games.
Sure.
So, like, yeah, sometimes there are better things than sex. But that's very contextual. I wouldn't say that's true every time.
Sometimes there's things that are maybe more convenient. I don't know about I'd say better, but that's okay.
Better means a lot of things.
Good point.
Right?
Great point.
It's not always just like what's better for your body. Sometimes it's what's better for your mental well-being.
Yeah, fair. Well said. Well said.
You know, like, where are you at?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, we were in a very special place and time. Christmas night.
Yes.
We were experiencing the frequency realm, the energy realm, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
We were just feeling each other in a whole new way. I was feeling the music in a whole new way, not just dancing to it, which, like, you can always experience music more fully in that emotional realm when you are moving to it, when you allow it to fill your body, and when you kind of lose sense of yourself, no self-consciousness, just moving, almost like you are riding that wave.
Right.
And I think that the more full expression of that with this music that's singing about or talking about, like, just closeness and feeling good, like, the more full expression of that is feeling good together.
Right.
And bringing each other pleasure.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know that, like, you and I, like, normally we don't listen to music when we're having sex.
Correct.
I don't know what that would be like, because we haven't really tried to do that, like, not on drugs.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny saying that now, because, like, I don't know why we haven't tried that before, but it's just not something that we normally do together. Like, you listen to your own music, I'll listen to my own music, and then when we have sex, we just focus on each other. But I guess, like, if we were to listen to that music not on drugs while having sex, I don't know that I would feel it the same way. Again, I think that altered state of consciousness was very important to me for experiencing that energy and emotion in a more full way.
Yeah, I mean, I think an important thing to bring up is generally on mushrooms in particular, or ayahuasca, you usually don't feel like sexually charged. LSD, different story, right? But I mean, just in my experience with you, that hasn't been the case. So I find it, like, also very interesting that the music was almost like another drug. And I say that positively.
Well, we've only done ayahuasca a couple of times.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think there were other important things that were going on emotionally
Fair.
that needed to be addressed.
Fair.
So it wasn't all fun party time.
No,
Yeah.
right. That's a great point. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I love about ayahuasca. I just want to say this briefly. It's a teacher.
Yes.
It is a plant medicine.
Right.
And I use that quite literally. It heals
Yes.
on many levels.
Yes.
And sometimes the healing is what is needed to be focused on. However, I think on Christmas night, we needed some sexual healing.
When I get that feeling. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. yeah, it was incredibly powerful, and it's one of those things, and I want to bring this up as well, okay? Because sometimes when you're on entheogens, it can be very difficult to orgasm.
Yes.
For anyone, guy, gal, whatever, okay? It can be very difficult. One
Yes,
of the things...
And by the way, I just want to say, don't blame yourself for that.
No.
There's biological reasons why
Exactly.
it's difficult. So
Yeah,
if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah, because, we were turned on as fuck, like, and, there was a point where, like, yes, I could have came, okay, like, fairly early on. Like, I would have easily exploded. But here's the thing. I just loved the entire sensation of the experience. The music, the movement of your body, and, like, I want to go on a side tangent so bad around clothing on that, but I'll refrain for now, okay? But, like, I just loved the whole experience. I just wanted to keep, shall we say, the PIV or the PIM going. Okay, like I just wanted that sensation of, of sex without the orgasm. It just felt so good. And this is something that I think a lot of people, this is just a point I want to bring up, that I think a lot of people miss, like when it comes to sex. Sex does not have to have an orgasm for it to be sex, for it to be great sex. It's not required. Like, sex is very much about energy, or as you say, Ellen, so often, sex is generosity, like
It is a generous act.
It is a generous act. Okay. And it does not have to culminate in this, again, in orgasm. It just doesn't. It can be enjoyed all day long in, 5-minute increments or something, or during a song. And then, like, it can end and you can just enjoy that. It can be its own dance. And I think we forget that, like, because we're so, one of the things I love when on entheogens is it gets rid of the goal-oriented mindset. It doesn't let you have that anymore.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's purely experiential.
Exactly. Well said. Great way to put it. And so many people have sex with a goal in mind. And I think we would all do well to get rid of that. For at least sometimes. It's okay to have a goal here and there, but I mean, like to get rid of that. Okay, my mission here is to come, or something like that. Like get that out of your mind. Be there for the experience. Be there for the feeling. Because if it didn't feel good on the journey, it wouldn't take you to orgasm. So enjoy the journey more sometimes, and adding in some music might be a way to explore that more and to enjoy it more. I think I could enjoy this without the entheogens, personally. I don't think that that's necessary. Now I get it. Now I understand the music even more, and I love it even more, and now I understand why a lot of people who I had tremendous respect for have been so hot on EDM, because I think they knew this ahead of us. They just never said it because they're in polite company or something.
Well, it's great. It really gets you into the moment.
Yeah.
Not thinking about tomorrow, not thinking
Right.
about the past.
Right.
Just right now.
Right. And I'd be tempted to do further experimentation. We'll get back with people on this. And I'm also kind of curious, like, what if it was AI generated EDM? I bet it wouldn't work.
Look, I don't want to try having sex to AI music. Nothing
Right
about
on.
AI is sexy.
I love it. Yeah, well, I think that might... I mean, part of the reason I'd love to do the experiment is just to prove the point. Like, no, this thing does not truly understand humans. It might mimic some shit, but it does not understand the human
I don't
condition.
think we have
It
to
can't.
do that in order to prove that. I
All
think AI proves it all the time.
Well, if any listeners out there do decide to engage in this experiment, please feel free to let us know in the comments or in the emails, and we'll talk about all that later. So, we talked about sex. Now, let's talk about death. Sex, death, and money, Sonny. That's what makes the world go round. It's a little Alice Cooper song for you.
And we're not going to talk about money.
No.
God, that's so boring.
Right on. Well, I'll quote another song. Prince, money doesn't matter tonight. So, all right.
Yeah, so we had promised in the past that we would talk about Ouija boards because we were talking about what dreams may come in a recent episode, which is a wonderful movie. Apparently,
Yes.
it's also a book.
Yep, by
So,
Richard Matheson. Yes.
Yeah, as we were reviewing that movie, the idea of summoning came up. So summoning a person from the dead.
Yeah, so you can go back and listen to the last episode. Let me give a very brief recap of where this came from, because I had somebody email into the show and they're like, "Oh, Ellen and Brian are going to go to blows." No.
No, we
So,
never go to
no,
blows.
no. I mean, you might get on your knees and anyway. Okay, so what it was, we were talking about the point in the film, particularly where Robin Williams had just died, and his wife is like painting. His wife, who has survived him, is painting, and he is able, like in some way, to communicate with her.
She communicates with him in that her painting is live in his heaven, changing.
Well, he's like talking to her. He hasn't
also-
gone to the afterlife yet.
He also does channel through her in the sense
Exactly.
that she's writing in her diary.
Exactly.
And he's able to influence her to write, "This is Chris, I still exist."
Exactly. Right. Yes. Okay. So now we talked about that, and I had said, no, it doesn't work. In fact, I quoted Terminator 2. I said, it doesn't work that way. Okay. Like, and you were like, oh, we're going to talk about this.
Oh, how come it doesn't work that way? Tell me how it works if you know so much about the afterlife, Mr. Expert on the afterlife.
Hey, this is the most important podcast on the
Look,
planet right
there
now.
are no rules, okay?
There are no rules.
This is something that came up in the movie that I think is absolutely true. Okay,
Okay.
everybody thinks that they, like, in the movie, these characters that have lived in the afterlife for who knows how long, because time doesn't exist there, you know? They're saying, like, no, if somebody kills themselves, they end up in their own personal hell because of their own beliefs and thoughts.
Nonsense.
And there's no way that you can rescue them. And Robin Williams is like, I'll show you what's possible. You don't know what the rules are.
Yeah.
We're making up the rules as we go.
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
And I love it because he's just got this fiery
Right.
passion
Right.
for bringing his soulmate back
Right.
to his heaven.
Right.
And he fucking does it.
Right.
And so I say to you, don't tell me what the rules are. There are no rules.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and a great point, like Cuba Gooding Jr. keeps saying to Robin Williams' character, look, no one's ever done this before, and so I understand that idea, which is another way of saying there are no rules. Look, it's just never been done before. Well, that doesn't,
It doesn't mean
it's
that
impossible.
it can't be done.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to clarify a little bit my point, which I did a little bit at the end of that episode, but there is a difference. I'm not saying that you can't talk to the dead. Okay. The question is, how does this communication start? Is it something where the dead can speak to you through their own will? Or is it that you conjure them through varying devices, like, say, a Ouija board or the Witch of Endor or whatever? Okay. And my point is that my understanding through my mystical lens is that it's more of a one-way street. Yes, the living have the energy to conjure the dead from Sheol to talk to them. And this happens in the Bible. Christians don't like to talk about that, but it does. Okay. Where the Witch of Endor calls up, the ghost, quote unquote, of Samuel. And I put ghost in quotes, for Saul. And it seems, I mean, as Jews understand it, this happened. Like, yes, it wasn't a demon, that was Saul, or I mean, that was Samuel. Thank you. So, but now, could Samuel, of his own volition, come out of Sheol and talk to the dead? No.
Let's strip away the fairy tales and let us understand the Citra Acra, the other side, where the Witch of Endor operated. The narrative in 1 Samuel chapter 28 isn't merely a conversation. It is a ritual often considered a supreme violation, centering on the Ov, a Hebrew term that literally translates to a wineskin or a hollow resonant bottle, signalling that the medium herself becomes the vessel, a fleshy container for the dead. The Zohar, in Parashat Acharei Mot, illuminates this darkness, stating, "The spirit of impurity descends only into a vessel of emptiness and filth," which implies that the Ba'alat Ov, the mistress of the Ov, had to prepare herself by becoming a void, an inverted sanctuary. This preparation was intensely physical and sexual, a sex magic of the gravest order, where the witch placed the ritual object, often the skull of a corpse or the legendary Jadua bone, known to the ancient mystics as a conduit for earthbound spirits, directly Bayin Raglayim, between her legs, replicating the power of the phallus that only women can transmute. By positioning this bone at the gateway of her own womb, she enacted a parody of birth, using the friction and heat of her own aroused yesod, the sephira of foundation and sexual connection, not to generate life, but to vibrate the bone and pull the dead up from the dust of Sheol. The incantations used were not spoken into the air, but directed downwards, guttural whispers known as lahash, meant to resonate with the frequency of the earth itself, grinding against the spiritual barriers until they shattered. When the ritual reached its climax, the witch screamed, not just from the exertion of the magic, but from the shock of who answered. The Zohar, one describes the terror of the dead when summoned in this explicit fashion, noting that Samuel rose in a panic, crying out, "Why have you disturbed me?" Because the vibration of the Ov mimics the trumpet blast of the shofar of the Messiah. Samuel believed it was Yom Hadin, the great day of judgment, and in his fright he did not ascend alone, but, as the Midrash Tanhuma reveals, he dragged Moses himself up with him to serve as a legal witness, proving that he had fulfilled his prophetic mission and was not being summoned for punishment. The witch, seeing this, exclaimed, "I see Elohim ascending from the earth," using the plural divine name to signify the terrifying magnitude of the spirits rising, judges and lawgivers emerging from the abyss. It was here that the power of the men asserted itself over the chaos of the ritual. While the Zohar teaches that most spirits summoned by the Ov rise feet first, upside down to symbolize their subversion and lack of standing in this world, Samuel and Moses rose yosher, upright and head first. This anomaly was the immediate signal to the witch that she stood before a king, for King Saul had initially not disclosed who he was. The cosmic protocol of Malkut dictates that a spirit must stand respectfully in the presence of nobility or priestly status, even if such a one has fallen from grace. King Saul, blinded by his lack of the Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit, asked for a description, and the witch confirmed his doom by describing the figure wrapped in a mail, the specific prophetic robe Samuel wore in life. The Zohar expands on this, teaching that the soul is clothed in the garments of its own days, meaning the levush, or astral garment, is woven from the very deeds and habits of the person's life. Samuel appeared in the robe to signal that the contract was unchanged, that the tear in that very robe years prior, which symbolized the ripping of the kingdom of Israel from Saul's hands, was still the binding legal precedent in the cosmos, as above, so below. In the conversation that followed, Samuel, channeling the severe judgment of Gevurah, crushed Saul's remaining hope of living, telling him that by tomorrow, "You and your sons will be with me," a chilling phrase that the mystics debate. Does "with me" mean in some kind of glory of the righteous prophets, implying Saul's atonement through death, or did Samuel simply mean in the silence of the grave? Dr. Sovryn believes it was the latter, for all go to silence in Sheol. Regardless, Saul's collapse was the physical manifestation of a spiritual implosion, yet his ability to rise, eat, and march to his death shows the grim resolve of a man who, having touched the absolute freezing cold of the grave through the heat of the witch's sex magic, decided to meet his end as an ancient king who knew his time was done.
So here is the caveat, and I think this is important. in the movie, Robin Williams had just died. He hadn't gone to his
Right.
own afterlife yet.
Right.
And I think this is an important delineation because not just this movie, but I think many stories that I have seen and heard about hauntings or people saying that the dead came and spoke to them, these are people who had not transitioned yet to wherever the great beyond is.
Yes.
These are people who are either freshly dead or didn't want to move on yet because they still had some unfinished business.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So now there's absolute truth to what you're saying. Like you're not wrong. That, okay, like there is a time is a fuck. Okay. Or as a good friend of mine once said to me so brilliantly, fuck time. So, which you can say in so many ways, and it's always great. Fuck time. All right. So,
Yeah, where do you put the emphasis on that?
right, exactly. Wonderful thing. So, is there like a time frame for when a person, say within Kabbalah or Judaism or whatever term you want to use, okay, a time frame from when the quote unquote soul or the being ends up in Sheol, between, you know, the world of the living and Sheol?
But
Yes.
everybody's time is different. Like it's not so much linear.
No, you're right. You're right. So
I mean, like we've talked about before, time is kind of circular.
Right.
It can go backwards, it can go forwards.
exactly.
And a lot of stories of the afterlife, time is completely subjective.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it is, as it is very much in life. So now the little story I want to tell is the story of Lazarus. Okay. So Christians, be happy. I'm actually going to talk about the New Testament.
Let's shift our gaze from the earthbound rituals of the Ov to the blinding projective power of Techiyat Hamatim, the resurrection of the dead, particularly in the narrative of Lazarus in this conversation of high-voltage spiritual mechanics. The story in the Gospel of John is stark. Lazarus of Bethany falls ill. His sisters send for the Nazarene, sometimes known as Jesus, but the Nazarene intentionally delays, waiting until Lazarus has not only died, but has been in the tomb for 4 full days. By the time Jesus arrives, the stone is sealed, and Martha warns him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench," indicating that the rot has set in. This specific detail, the 4-day duration, is the master key that unlocks the mystical weight of the event. The Midrash, Leviticus Rabbah 18:1, teaches that the soul, the nephesh, hovers over the body for 3 days, mourning its separation and hoping to re-enter. But on the 4th day, when the face begins to distort and decomposition, corruption, becomes visible, the soul abandons the vessel completely. Healing someone within 3 days is a feat of refuah, healing, potentially just waking them from a coma. But pulling a soul back after 4 days is an act of bria, creation, requiring the total reconstruction of the spiritual link that had been severed. From a Kabbalistic perspective, what happened at that tomb of Lazarus was the absolute inverse of the Witch of Endor's necrosexual extraction. While she used the klipot to drag a spirit up from the mud, a male Kabbalist performing a resurrection acts as a conduit for the Or Haganuz, the hidden light, channeling energy downwards from the supernal realm of Atziluth. The mechanism here is not the Ov, the hollow void, but the Pe, the mouth, and the Ruach, the breath. The prototype for this is found in the prophet Elisha, 2 Kings 4:34, who resurrected the Shunammite's son. But in the case of Lazarus, the incantation was the command, "Lazarus, come out," spoken with the authority of the Shem HaMephorash, the explicit name of God, which acts as a sonic frequency that forcefully rebinds the nephesh to the biological matter. This is a powerful imposition of order upon the chaos of entropy, forcing the Sitra Achra to relinquish its claim on the rotting flesh and reigniting the divine spark, the Nitzots, within the cold heart. So you may now ask, does a male master use the same eroticization as the witch to achieve this? The answer is a sharp, distinct no. But the energy dynamics are undeniably sexual in their polarity. The Witch of Endor used what could be called lower sex magic, utilizing the physical womb and the yesod of the earth to birth death into life, a wet, downward, receptive process. A master performing a fully physical resurrection uses higher sex magic, or zivug haruach, coupling of the spirit, where the yesod of the tzaddik, the phallic, generative foundation of the righteous man, sublimates the sexual impulse entirely into da'at, knowledge or connection. He does not copulate with the body, he impregnates the void of death with the living force. It is a projective, dry, solar act. He essentially fucks the reality of death with the force of life. But the instrument of penetration is not the penis, but the voice and the will. So, while there is no physical intercourse, the operation relies on the same reserves of potent, creative libido that one usually expends in procreation, but harnessed and shot like a laser into the corpse to restart the engine of existence. The Nazarene is far from the only Jew to have ever performed such an act of resurrection, and many of these events are exceptionally more impressive and potent than the story of Lazarus. But those are stories for another time.
So, Jesus raises this guy from the dead. What was impressive about that? There's plenty of stories in Judaism, not Christianity, in Judaism, before Jesus, of people raising from the dead. What was impressive about the story of Lazarus is that he was raised from the dead, after 3 days. Because, if you do it within 3 days, yeah, okay, well, maybe that could have happened. Now, why is that? Why is there this 3-day timeline? Okay, and the reason for that is there is an understanding in Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism, okay, that, yeah, there's a time frame where, the quote-unquote soul, zivug, whatever, okay, is before it's ending up in Sheol. They know that.
It doesn't have anything to do with the body, like the physical body becoming decayed?
Yes, there's that as well. Whether they understood it medically or not, it's very easy to understand rigor mortis, right? The stiffness of the body and whatever, and so there's time, however long that takes to happen. I think it takes a couple days or something like that. There is a medical understanding for sure, but also there is this understanding that a quote unquote soul will linger a little bit, or that there is a time frame within which, okay, anything can happen within this 3 days. Now, that doesn't mean that that's not like a hard and fast rule that basically, they won't be in Sheol until 3 days later.
Yeah, it's not like somebody sets the clock for 72
exactly,
hours and
exactly
then it's a
right.
countdown.
Exactly right. Okay, so it can happen at any point, but if after that point, yeah, it ain't happening. They're not coming back. Okay, so could you talk within could the dead, quote unquote, talk to the living within that, say, 3-day period? Sure. Yes. So that's why I say you're right as far as that goes. And actually, if I think about the movie a bit more, we have no idea of what that time frame looks like. I think it seems to be like the funeral happens, a party happens and all this stuff. It seems like it's a longer period of time, but we really have no idea.
No, it could have been a couple weeks. It could have been a couple days.
Yeah, exactly. So I will rescind, my knock on the film for that, because we don't know the time frame. And there is a time frame within which, again, the quote unquote dead perhaps could communicate with the living.
Okay, what about hauntings? What about,
yes.
Ghosts that have been living in a place for a very long time?
Yeah, so in these instances, that has become, and we talked about this a few episodes. I did a write-up that Sophia read during an episode where I talked about the different types of souls. One of those is called the Dybbuk. And Dybbuk is a Hebrew term. The Dybbuk is like this being that just has not achieved and will not achieve, for lack of a better term, its purpose. And so it ends up sticking around. And in fact, a Dybbuk can inhabit another person, can like take you over. I mean, this is where like possessions come from. This is where the concept of an exorcism, which has been around for fucking ever in human history, in multiple religions. This is where this comes from, are these quote unquote ghosts that just like stay around in pain, this Amityville horror kind of stuff. So there is room for that, but that has become something other than the person that you knew, at that point. And part of that comes from, they can't be that person unless they're in a body. Like the body is so important,
So the other part to this, I want to ask, because I was listening to a book recently about the holographic universe theory. And one of the chapters was talking about historical reenactments from the spiritual realm, like in the sense of like people looking out their window and seeing a battle scene that occurred like 200 years ago.
Yes.
They're seeing all these people and like carriages and horses and gunfire.
Yes.
They're hearing it. And sometimes it's very brief. Sometimes it's an extended period of time. Sometimes they just see it. Sometimes they just hear it. Sometimes it's both. So there's this concept that people have developed that like the energy, the powerful emotions that existed at the time that these events were occurring are imprinted on the fabric of reality, such that if conditions are right, sometimes that can physically manifest itself, or an auditory manifestation or something like that.
Yeah. So a very famous, and that book is by Michael Talbot.
Yes.
I would recommend that to anybody, and I think you would as well.
I would, yeah. I just finished listening to it last night, actually.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, we should do a book review on that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Maybe
from the
next
90s,
episode.
absolute classic. Okay. So a very famous case of what you talked about is Edward Gibbons, who wrote the exceptionally large and well worth reading The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. And part of what inspired him to do that was he was standing at a hill of a great battle in Rome, and he heard he heard and saw it.
And these aren't just hallucinations
No,
that
this
people
guy
have. This isn't an imagination thing. This is an actual experience that people have.
Yeah, Edward Gibbons is as straight a fucking arrow as you could imagine.
Well, sometimes it happens to two or more people at the same time.
Exactly right. Yeah. So these things are very real. Now, part of what comes in with that is, what is time? And the idea that time is actually memory is a very interesting concept. So if we exist within, say, space-time, I would more arguably say we exist within space-time thought. I think the holographic universe would actually probably play very well within that. Okay. When you intermix these things, you have the space, you have time, you have thought. That is memory, right? A space, a time, and the thought of it. That is literally a memory. So it's not a crazy claim to make. And so that those events would stick around within a specific geography, absolutely. Totally, that would occur. Now, but what are you talking to? What did Edward Gibbons experience in those moments? Edward Gibbons experienced the event. He didn't experience the 2,000 year old ghost of Caesar.
So he's not actually summoning ghosts.
No.
These aren't the actual spirits of the people who enacted these things that are present.
Yeah,
he's saying.
Right. He's basically having an interdimensional experience, and he's experiencing another dimension of, we'll say, time. All of these words, they're words, and so, but I mean, to try and rein it in a little bit, that's what he's experiencing within that. He's not actually experiencing a ghost with its own will, in those moments. So that's, that's my answer to my thoughts on that, and, kind of the answer to that. And Michael Talbot is and you're absolutely right for bringing it up. These happen often, and again, happen in group settings.
So then, if that's not a ghost, then what is summoning?
Yeah,
Tell us,
yeah,
you
or-
know, what your idea of summoning is.
Yeah, or conjuring is a great word. Now, you and you can preface and I can edit out however much you want to share about this or don't, but I think it's a very beneficial thing for you to talk about because you had a powerful experience with a Ouija board.
Yeah. Okay. So we can start talking about the Ouija board.
Yeah.
What inspired me to want to talk about this actually was that somewhat recently, at least a couple of months ago, you and I went over to some of our friends' house, and they really wanted to try out a Ouija board for the first time.
Right.
I'd never done one before. I think maybe you had.
Oh yeah. And just quick, like I'm gonna do a write up, and I'm gonna have Sophia like give us a good history on the Ouija board. I mean, just so that people like really understand what this is. So we'll go to that.
Many may think the Ouija board is some Hasbro-branded parlor game, but it is rather a broader part of the democratization of necromancy. The Ouija board is a mass-produced key to the Citra Acra, the other side. While the commercial Ouija appeared in Baltimore around 1890, patented by Elijah Bond, who famously had the board spell out his own patent officer's name to prove its efficacy, its roots are tangled in the fervour of the 19th century spiritualist movement, fueled by the Fox sisters and the obsession with automatic writing. This wasn't a new invention by any means, but a modernisation of the ancient Fuji, planchette writing, of China, and the scrying tables of Pythagoras, who himself may be the origin of the myths of the Nazarene, sometimes called Jesus. The Ouija board was very much the moment that the occult went industrial, stripping the ritual of its protective circles and holy names, and handing a loaded spiritual weapon to the uninitiated. The board operates on the principle of the ideomotor effect, which scientists dismiss as subconscious muscle movement, but which the occultist recognizes as the precise mechanism of possession, the surrender of the nephesh, the animal soul, and its motor functions to an external intelligence. When you place your fingers on that planchette, you are essentially engaging in a tactile, free use agreement with the unseen, offering your biological electricity as the battery for a spirit that lacks the density to move matter on its own. From a Kabbalistic perspective, the Ouija board is an inversion of the Urim and Thummim, the breastplate of the high priest. In the Holy Temple, the Kohen Gadol would consult the Urim, and the letters engraved on the stones would light up to spell out the will of YHWH, a communication of pure light descending from Atziluth, the world of emanation, through a sanctified vessel. But the Ouija board creates the exact opposite flow. It could somewhat humorously be called a breastplate of the darkness, where, instead of light descending to illuminate the letters, the user's hands are dragged by forces from Sheol, or the broader Citra Acra, to point at the letters, ascending from the lowest, murkiest depths of Asaya, the world of action. It is a tool of the Shalamot Shav, tapping into the chaotic astral debris of the lower Yetzirah world, where trickster spirits, Shedim, and fragments of the confused dead reside. Because it lacks the safeguards of the Kedusha, holiness, it acts like an open frequency with no caller ID, often attracting spiritual parasites, or dibbuks, that feed on the fear and obsessive energy of the users. Make no mistake, the board is effective, brutally so, because it leverages the Hebrew concept of hiskashrus, binding connection, linking the will of the sitter to the wandering spirits who are desperate for a taste of physical agency, turning the session into a potentially dangerous negotiation where the living provide the energy and the dead provide the text. If you want proof of the board's potency, look no further than the case of Pearl Curran, a St. Louis housewife with an 8th grade education who, beginning in 1913, engaged in a decades-long act of spiritual surrender to an entity named Patience Worth. This wasn't a parlour trick, it was a total intellectual possession, where the board dictated over 4 million words of novels, poetry, and plays through Curran's hands, texts filled with archaic 17th century Anglo-Saxon dialects and historical knowledge that Curran simply did not possess. The literary world was baffled because the prose was brilliant, the philology precise, and the speed of dictation faster than humanly possible, suggesting that Curran had become a hollow bone, a perfect, submissive vessel who allowed the entity to bypass her conscious mind and use her motor functions to weave high art from the ether. Then there is the darker, more intellectual seduction of Pulitzer Prize-winning poet James Merrill, who spent 20 years enslaved to the board, transcribing the epic poem The Changing Light at Sandover, from spirits calling themselves Ephraim and Mirabel. This wasn't a game. It was a grueling, nightly ritual of high-frequency interrogation, where the entities dictated complex cosmological systems, revealing a universe ruled by a scientific hierarchy that sounded terrifyingly like a celestial bureaucracy. Merrill didn't write the poem. He served as the secretary for the Citra Acra, allowing the spirits to dictate the meter and rhyme in real time, proving that the board can act as a direct line for downloading genius that exceeds the user's own capacity. Even the founders of our modern spiritual movements weren't immune to its allure. Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, famously used the Ouija board in his early days to contact spirits, claiming that the 12 steps themselves were influenced by these channeled wisdoms, a fact often scrubbed from official histories. He treated the board as a spiritual telephone, seeking guidance from the other side to break the chains of addiction, illustrating how the desperate soul will use any tool to find a power greater than itself. So while use of the Ouija board may lead to a pleasant night with loved ones long past, you may just as easily find yourself dancing with entities of darker persuasion and beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
But now you had this experience.
So, I mean, essentially Ouija boards are just communication devices. You
Yes.
don't need one to communicate with spirits, but it does help.
It's a tool.
It helps
It's a
people
portal.
to
It's
focus.
a tool. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And, you know, having the letters laid out and the yes, no, and the symbols of the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
And then there's I forget what you call it, the centerpiece that everyone puts their hands on
Mm-hmm.
and it moves around. That is all sort of set up so that you can focus your energy and intention and for the spirit to be able to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm.
So to get started, we said the full name of the person and we spelled it out.
Right, using the planchette.
Yes, the planchette, thank you.
Yep.
And each one of us, except for you, tried to communicate with a relative, a loved one that had passed at some point in recent history.
Right.
For me, it was my great-grandfather who passed away probably 5 years ago, close to that.
Mm-hmm.
And
An amazing human being, by the way, who I
Yes.
had the pleasure of meeting as well, fortunately.
Yeah, he was the only person in my family that I would say was truly a patriarch, somebody who I had immense respect and love for, and who I wish so much every day that I had more time with.
And I think this is important. He was a deeply spiritual man in the Ojibwe tradition.
Yes,
and deeply knowledgeable.
he was a tribe leader, a tribe elder. He still knew the language. He still knew the history. He had connections at that tribe, and he offered to take us there, but never did, unfortunately, because he wasn't well for the last few years of his life, and sadly passed away before I was able to, talk to him as much as I wanted to about some of these things that I would love to know more about. Like at family gatherings, he would often say an Ojibwe sort of prayer, a blessing, and he spoke it in the Anishinaabe language, and I wish I knew more,
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's part of your journey that you're exploring.
Yes, yeah.
And which I think is wonderful and beautiful, and I support 100%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I am continuing that journey, that education for myself independently, but
Right.
it's hard to do without that tribe, without those connections.
Well, and a lot of their tradition is oral. You know,
Yes.
just like in Kabbalah and in Judaism, it's oral. It gets passed down from, you know, family member to family member. I know the score. You know, I mean, most religions I don't think do, but this is one of those cases, and that's what makes it such a challenge. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, he had that deep spiritual core. I think that's important to bring up. You know, within this, and
If you met him as a person, you could just feel it. Like he had.
It irradiated.
He had that inner peace and tranquility of a Native American.
Yes, no fear, like unbelievable. You know, like he's just an unbelievable person to meet. And you know, there's a reason I'm sharing this. But one thing I want to, or you know, that I wanted that to get explained. I don't think we have to go too much. We could talk about ZoZo. We might get into that a little bit, okay? But I don't think we have to give too much detail on what our friends' experiences were. You know, just out of respect. But your experience, like you started, you know, like people were, let's just say this, people were having experiences that they couldn't explain.
Yeah,
and everybody
so
claimed that they weren't moving the planchette. Go ahead.
we all promised each other we weren't
Right.
messing with
Right.
anyone. And that's the biggest concern when you do this is like,
Right.
is somebody fucking with us, you know, is somebody moving the planchette?
Right.
Both our friends went first and they talked to their relatives. It seemed like they were hearing things again that like nobody else should know. It was privileged information between them and the person they were communicating with. And
Yes.
and I did the same thing. I wanted to test to make sure that I was actually speaking with my great-grandfather.
Right.
And I asked him how old he was when he passed away. And the way he responded was, I am this age. Like he currently is this old. And if he was still alive, if we were still celebrating his birthdays, that truly would have been his age.
That's how old he would have been.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So, like,
So it feels like a valid
shocker
answer.
number one for me is that
Exactly.
he's still counting the years.
Right.
Like, he still knows how old he is or would be.
Yeah.
Number two, yes, that was him. At least I feel that it was. There were other things that I asked that I wish we had recorded because it seemed like he was giving a genuine answer, but like I couldn't keep up because there's too many letters coming out.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I learned is like next time maybe we'll audio record so we can read the letters aloud as they come out, so that we don't have to have like a scribe. But
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an important point to make. A Ouija board is a very imprecise tool.
Yeah.
Like it's, it's not, it sure as fuck isn't efficient.
No, it's not. And I think that I've heard this from other people, and I kind of felt the same, that the spirit maybe gets impatient or frustrated because it takes energy for them to communicate with us. And if we're not 100% focused and intending on communicating accurately what they're trying to send through, the message can get garbled. Like, there was one point, and I was laughing about this with one of our friends recently, but I asked him, like, are you proud of me? And he said, he spelled out, you are Mayo, M-A-Y-O.
Right.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't think he's actually trying to call me Mayo. I think there was something else he was trying to say, but the energy, the focus, whatever it was, it just petered out at the end. And he couldn't finish spelling what he wanted to spell.
Exactly. Now, there's more I want to say on that. Are you willing to share what he said about your mother?
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the one where I was like, wow. Okay.
There's a long story behind this. Basically, my mother was insane. Literally, she was clinically insane.
Right.
She did a lot of drugs. She moved around a lot. She was not a great parent. She left us with our grandparents when I was a teenager.
Right.
So, I know she was not just the black sheep of the family, but she needs a lot of help. And my great-grandparents were witness to that at some level, at least.
Yeah.
So I asked my great-grandpa, you know, what do you think of my mother? And he just spelled out bitch. He called her a bitch.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because this guy had the greatest sense of humor. He was always making us laugh. And he was so sweet and loving. And I've just never heard him speak that way about anyone before.
And right. And the energy like I got when I met him, I just would never expect that word to come out of his mouth.
No.
But it's also so freaking accurate. So like, and the two friends had no idea. Like they don't know.
No.
Okay. They couldn't have known. So that was really solidifying. And it speaks to also like, I'm frustrated. You have to be kind of terse just by the nature of the tool that is the planchette and the Ouija board. Okay. And so like, let's cut to the chase. She's a bitch. Bingo.
Yeah.
Like it was.
And that's the limitation of the Ouija board is that you can really only get like 1 to 3 word responses.
Yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit about, okay, here's where this is different. Now, it's interesting that he had a conception of time. Like that was really interesting.
Yeah,
and
that was shocking.
Yeah, I'm not exactly, going to get into like I have all the answers and how did that work. Okay. But
he could have just had an awareness of what time it was for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is a conjuring, a summoning, a conjuring. I don't know that there's a big difference in those terms. Okay.
Do you think that the people were actually with us in the room, or do you think it was just some level of communication from another realm?
Yeah. So I could believe. Okay. So the way that a Ouija board works, okay, it's a portal. It is something that can harness the living person who are there, their energy. Okay. And you are opening yourself up, and that is a danger when you are letting that kind of energy out.
Which is why you said a blessing before we started.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I used every priestly trick I had to protect everybody around.
And we lit some candles, too,
yes.
which I made personally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You never do a Ouija board alone, folks. And I mean this. Okay. So, so that a Ouija board is the living opening up their living energy. Okay. One of the definitions of Ruach, though there's many others, and allowing another entity, whether that's somebody quote unquote dead in Sheol, or it could even be a demon or some other kind of entity that can come through that portal. Okay. Or inhabit that portal, right? Because the way Ouija boards work, yes. Like, can a demon inhabit a Ouija board? Yes. In fact, one of them might have, in our case, okay, which we might talk about. So the dead though, like, yes, I could believe your grandfather was there. Okay.
I didn't expect it to work at all. And
right.
And when I started communicating with him, I think that completely changed my worldview.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't like feel like there was no dark feelings. Like there was nothing like I was emptying the bones, and that's part of why I didn't get into it, because I was reserving, my own abilities and energy for other matters. Okay. Involved. So,
but it felt kind. It felt benevolent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't get any sense of like evil or malicious intent.
Yeah, there was a genuine mirth in the air, which was great, and it felt good. So I can believe that, okay, that yes, you made contact, that what happened was great-granddaddy's in Sheol, and he came up to talk to his beloved granddaughter.
And he was there in the room, you're saying?
Right.
Not just like channeling through from a different dimension.
He was at least at the board. Okay. And, I'm not saying that, by no means am I saying that there was a ghost, that he was a ghost in the room. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. That he was like able to speak, come up and speak, from Sheol, just like Samuel did with the Witch of Endor.
But we called for him and he came.
Yeah. Yeah. But that is a very different process, right? Like that is a very directional process. You, the living, called upon the dead. The dead did not call upon the living.
Well, from what I've heard from other spiritualists, other people who are psychic and have the ability to be a medium.
Sure.
The dead don't really think about this life that
exactly.
much. They're very happy where they're at. They're
100%.
They've got things to do. They've got things to learn. They've got, other people to see. everyone who they ever cared about, they're interacting with, they're thinking about their pets, then they're with their pets, so they have a whole experience on the other side that is keeping them occupied.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go so far as all of that, but bottom line being is that at the very least, the rest that they're getting to experience, the soul sleep, as will get used in modern terms, is incredibly pleasurable.
I don't,
and so
who really knows what it's like
Sure.
for them. But
Yeah.
point is, they don't think about this life very
Exactly.
much. There's so much more to existence on the other side.
Bracket that statement right there, spot on, and that comes right out of like right out of Ecclesiastes, right out of the Solomonic texts. You're totally on point there. So so no argument from me on that. But let's be clear here again, the Ouija board is the living bringing the dead. It's not the other way around. Okay. So, and I think that was kind of our point of contention, like in the last episode, was, wait a minute, no, I have talked, you were saying you have talked to the dead, and I believe you have,
And I also believe that there are instances where the dead, before they go to the far beyond, wherever that may be, they're still here and able to communicate. Though I don't think that is supposed to go on forever.
Yeah, no, I think there's a very limited amount of time for that sort of thing. And I mean, you can reason your way around why that would even be if you wanted to, but I don't even think that's necessary, but regardless. So yeah, if it sounded like I said in the last episode that you can't speak to the dead, no, I don't mean that at all. But what I am saying is the dead can't speak to you. Like there's a direction in which this can go. I think a lot of people, and you have, I'll say it outright, downright scam artists like John Edwards, who, I don't know, they feel like they're just like randomly calling the dead and they just kind of show up or whatever, something like that. No, it's a very intentional process, that one goes through to be able to talk to the dead, because it's feeding on your energy. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, it can be, but that is the process in which that works. It requires the energy of the living for the dead to do anything, so do you have questions on that? Am I saying something like, what do you got?
I don't know. I think maybe your statements sound as though they're more restrictive than they actually are, because like there are ways that the dead can communicate with us. And I think you and I listened to this podcast once where this woman was talking about her recently deceased husband, and she was asking for signs from him that he was still like watching over her, so to speak. And she got the signs. And like, I've tried that for myself, and it could have been synchronicity, but I felt that I also received the signs that I was looking for. And I think that maybe there's something to that. Like, you can ask for things from them, and they can show you in certain ways, perhaps, that they're still like aware of your existence, and they're still seeing what your life is like. Not that they would like actively be here all the time unless you really wanted them to be, but like in What Dreams May Come, if you think about them, if you really focus on them, then they will come to you.
Yeah.
And again, the Ouija board is just a tool to do that. But I think that like for the dead, they have the whole universe to explore, and we have our own universe to explore. And I don't think that it's necessarily healthy to stay focused on somebody who's already passed.
Yeah.
Like, you should each enjoy and experience the universe that is available to you.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautifully put. I mean, and again, like, yes, you're asking someone for like a sign, okay, that's you calling upon them. Again, it's the obsession. I don't want to call it, it's not necromancy, but like the obsession of the other direction, where like, the dead are talking to me and I am being influenced by them or whatever. Or like, I have real problems with the concept of guardian angel. I think that's a subject beyond our purview right now. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I
it's
would
so
love
popular.
to talk about spirit guides at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think that
Yeah.
and guardian angels kind of fall in the same category.
Right.
But then there's another aspect to this that I wanted to bring up.
Please.
And you said, like, you know, the dead aren't, like, giving you advice or reaching out to you and saying, hey, you should go do this or that. So one of our friends was talking to one of their deceased family members through the Ouija board during the same session. And in this case, our friend's mother said, like, I'm worried about your brother. You should check up on him. And I feel like that's, you know, that's something that a mother would say to her son.
Yeah, no, like I said, everybody was having powerful experiences, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And maybe she wouldn't have, like, reached out to him of her own accord, but, like, she got this opportunity through the Ouija board. And who knows what they see from their side. But she had some awareness that, like, you know, his brother's struggling. He needs some support. He needs some love.
right. Yeah, I mean, again, the Ouija board is just one tool that allows for this type of communication, you know, to occur. And I would even argue, like we said earlier, it's kind of a bad one. Like, it's not very good.
It's not the best.
Yeah, it's not precise. It's not efficient. Like, I mean, there's so many things of like, well, wait, does it know is what you're talking to? Do they know English? Like, because you only have one alphabet on there, you know.
Well, so our friend was actually Hispanic, and his
Right.
mother was speaking to him in Spanish.
Yes, yeah, which fortunately also uses, you know, like a Latin alphabet. So, you know, there's no ends with a tilde or anything, but all the same, you know, and amazing. Okay, so, I mean, So here's the thing with the Ouija board. I want to talk a little bit more about what happened. Like, my understanding is that Ouija board was gotten rid of, that we used.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So part of what happened there is towards the end, it started just going back and forth, A to Z, over and over again. And it started doing also a countdown.
It was while we were talking to our friend's mother, and Mama was getting spelled out over and over again, very persistently. M-A, 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 back and forth, back and forth. And I thought, like, oh, wow, your mom just needs some, you know, awareness and acknowledgement that she is here with us. And I was like, can you just tell her that? And as soon as he was like, yes, we hear you, we're here with you, it seemed to calm down a little bit. But then, you know, the next person went, and she was talking to somebody who had passed away, and that's when the countdown was happening. So it happened in these two separate occasions. And I wonder at what point there was some intercession happening. But yeah, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's when we talked about ZoZo, which is this common entity. Again, on Sexoterica, we've already talked about demons, how get over the ideas of good and evil. It's all nonsense, whatever. Okay. Yes, demons can be a very good thing. So this one is often considered not. And it's called ZoZo.
While the internet treats the ZoZo like a viral ghost story, the vibrational signature of this demon is ancient, persistent, and genuinely predatory. If we strip away the modern hysteria, we find that ZoZo is likely a linguistic corruption or a mask worn by a very old, very chaotic fragment of the Citra Acra that specialises in the disruption of communication. The validity of ZoZo lies not in its royalty among the infernal hierarchy. It is likely not a king or a duke like Asmodeus or Paimon, but in its function as a spiritual jammer, a chaotic noise frequency that hijacks the open channel of the board. The first concrete historical footprint of this specific name appears long before the Hasbro patent, deep in the annals of French demonology. In the Dictionnaire Infernal, 1818, by Jacques Collin de Plancy, recounting the famous possessions of the Ursuline nuns at Loudun in the 1630s, a demon named ZoZo is explicitly listed alongside other lesser spirits that possess the Mother Superior, Jeanne des Anges. In that context, ZoZo was not a grand architect of doom, but a tormentor of the mind, a spirit of harassment that broke the victim's will through constant, repetitive psychic assault, which aligns perfectly with its modern behaviour on the board. From a Kabbalistic perspective, the name itself, ZoZo, is a terrifying metaphysical trap, a sigil of the loop. If we analyse the letters using Hebrew correspondence, the Z maps to Zion, the sword, weapon, numerical value 7, and the O maps to Vav, the hook, connector, numerical value 6, or sometimes Ayin, the eye, void. When the planchette moves in that relentless back and forth motion, striking ZOZO, it is physically tracing a figure 8 or an infinity loop on the board. This is a mechanism of clipotic entrapment. In the higher realms, energy spirals and ascends, but in the darker realms, energy loops and stagnate. The demon is essentially short-circuiting the séance, creating a closed energy loop where it feeds off the panic and adrenaline of the sitters without offering any new information. It is a parasitic battery charger. Some occultists also argue that ZoZo is a corruption of Pazuzu, the ancient Assyrian king of the demons of the wind, who brought famine and locusts. The linguistic drift from Pazuzu to Zuzu to ZoZo is standard phonological decay, suggesting that when you encounter this entity, you may be touching the degenerate, starving remnants of what was once a god of the wasteland, now reduced to scavenging for scraps of attention in darkened rooms. The danger of ZoZo is its aggressive, almost sexualized dominance. It doesn't just spell words, it pumps the planchette in a violent rhythm, often counting down, a mockery of time running out, or spiralling into the centre of the board. This behaviour indicates an entity from the chaotic orders of the tohu, the confusion, specifically designed to break the psychological defences of the user. It is known to mimic other spirits initially, to gain trust before revealing its face, at which point the planchette often moves with such force it can fly off the table. This is the hallmark of a parasitic egregore, an entity that has grown fat on the collective fear of millions of users. By fearing the name ZoZo, the collective consciousness of the internet has essentially poured blood into its mouth, giving an ancient, minor nuisance the muscle mass of a titan. When it appears, the standard banishing protocols often fail because the users are already caught in its hypnotic loop. The only way to break it is to physically disrupt the circuit, flip the board, break the glass, and verbally sever the connection using a name of order, like Adonai, to shatter the chaotic frequency of the ZO loop. It is incredibly important to recognise that even if you think something is nonsense or non-existent, culture at large can bring things into reality through the collective unconscious of humanity and its energy. So what did not previously exist may now be powerfully real.
But part of the reason it's called ZoZo is because people, when they experience this creature, this being, whatever it is, it will move the planchette from Z to O, which are on opposite sides of the board. So ZoZo back and forth. But it also uses M and A because they're also on opposite ends of the board. And the countdown is another sign.
Yeah,
and if it gets all the way through all of the numbers from 0 to 9, then it escapes.
Yeah. But the countdown is where it's particularly dangerous, and of course we didn't let it go all the way.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So, it was one of those things that was also very weird that occurred. And everybody involved was not aware of this entity.
No, because after we read about it, I messaged them and I was like, hey, you guys should probably not use that board again.
Yeah.
Sage your house, do whatever you want to purify it.
We did sage the place after.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Throw salt around, just, make sure that it's cleansed. Because, these very strange occurrences, other people have had them before too. And this is what they have experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's important to know about if people do want to, shall we say, experiment. Of course, I recommend do not come into this with an experimental attitude. Come in at it with a respectful attitude, because you are messing with a very powerful tool, regardless of your thoughts on it. Okay. And I want to get into the thoughts on it. I mean, I've told the story back on my show, Sovereign Tech, many, many years ago, about how when I was very young, my cousins, I was staying over, my cousins, they were playing with a Ouija board. And this is at a time when movies like Witchboard and all these other things were very popular. Like Ouija boards were having a bit of resurgence, satanic panic, that kind of shit. Okay, which is nonsense, but whatever. And so they're using the Ouija board, and they started communicating with something that was deemed malicious. Like, they got scared. My cousins got very, very scared. I was going to sleep. Fuck that shit. And my uncle was like, screw this. Snapped the thing in half, went outside, threw it in the, in the garbage can. Okay. The next morning, everybody wakes up. The Ouija board's back on the kitchen table, looking brand new. It never broke.
That just makes me think that somebody's messing with you.
Maybe. But I got to tell you, and I this is no shade. Like, my cousins were not wealthy people. Like, I just don't know that they could spend that kind of money on another board. Maybe that happened. Maybe my uncle was having a good time with everybody. But like, from that moment, I was like, regardless of what the Ouija board actually is, I'm going to respect this thing. Okay. And this is an important point to bring up, because regardless of what listeners here may think about a Ouija board, they have been around for, well over 100 years. Okay. And there are a lot of people who put a lot of, shall we say, stock in the idea that the Ouija board is a thing. Now, if you think the Ouija board is a complete scam, if you think it's all marketing because it's owned by, I don't know, Parker Brothers, Milton Bradley, whatever. Okay.
A lot of people think it only works because of your micro motions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, your subconscious is
Sure.
guiding your hands.
Sure.
And I think our experience goes beyond that.
It does. So my point is that regardless of what level of bullshit or scam you think a Ouija board falls under, it is not so for others. And our understanding of the power of human will and thought to create things that may not have existed before. I would argue that if it was a scam originally, it has become something so much more. And that I would still recommend respecting, okay, the power of this thing, because even if you don't believe it has power, there are lots of people who do, and they have actual power. Okay. And, I mean, this is such a huge subject to get into that we're not going to get into now, but it's very important to bring up that, you think it might be nonsense, but if other people don't think it's nonsense, they can imbue very real power into it. Okay. That can also affect you. So
even if it's just psychological.
Exactly.
Even if it's just placebo.
Exactly right. Yeah. So this is just a really key thing to keep in mind. Okay. Like, it doesn't matter sometimes it doesn't matter what you think about something. What matters is that other people believe, and that can be just as terrifying regardless of the reality. Okay. So, just that has to be said. But I mean, personally, yeah, I think Ouija boards are quite real, in what they claim, because they're just another soul technology in a long history of varying soul technologies. I mean, what do you say to that, Ellen?
Yeah, I agree. I think the first hurdle that most people have to get over is whether or not you believe that there is a spirit or a soul that persists beyond death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right there, a lot of people will fall off the bandwagon. They don't believe that.
Right.
The second part is that we can communicate to that side of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some people who have psychic abilities that are able to do that naturally without any sort of tools. But the Ouija board, I think it was a tool made for everyone to be able to use, because I think the open secret is that everybody has these innate psychic abilities to communicate with that energetic realm. And not everybody has developed those abilities because, we haven't been mentored to do so. We haven't been taught about these things. So having a tool available for us to use that's easily accessible, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that there are other ways that it could be done. Like somebody else could come up with a completely different style of board game that works even better. I don't know what that's going to look like, but
Sure.
like it could possibly exist. The Ouija board is one tool to communicate with the dead, but it's not the only one.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who suggest now that actually, like, basically LLMs are a modern day Ouija board, and that entities and perhaps the deceased or something are talking to them through ChatGPT.
I mean, I don't want to make that claim, and I think that there's a lot wrong with that. At the same time, there have been experiments that show that people's mental psychic abilities have the ability to influence data.
Yeah.
Or like a photon or a bit flipping from 0 to 1.
Right.
Like, can you make these bits flip to 1 more often than they do to 0?
Yes.
And, there are experiments that show statistically significant results. So
Exactly.
While I do think humans have the ability to influence electronics, LLMs are a completely different thing.
Yeah. I'm not inclined to believe that is occurring. It's certainly not on a mass scale. But what I will say is that the rules are always the same with any of these tools, and that is you test the spirits. Okay, like you really, whether it's a Ouija board, whatever it happens to be.
They have to prove that they are who they say they are.
Yeah, you make them prove it. And if they get frustrated, well, then leave them the fuck alone and let them sleep, even if they are your, someone you love dearly. So, like, if that's how they're feeling, that's how they're feeling. Bottom line, test the spirits. Okay. And what does that look like? Yeah, that's something we can explore more on this show. Not on this episode, but on the show overall. I think that's worthwhile. So, yeah, I hope that clarified things on how I feel. I'm sure people disagree with me. They think that the dead many years later will come and talk to them and whatever else. And, you made an excellent point, Ellen, in that in reality, and when I say reality, I mean the cosmos, all that exists in and out of the universe, there are no rules ultimately, and so I understand that. But, some of the lens that we look through is part of our way of testing, reality itself, or the spirits, as we say. So, I run on that often, and it served me well so far. So, and that's not to say I haven't spoken with entities or things that I should never have been able to speak to. I've certainly hinted at that in the past, and maybe at some point we'll get into more of those stories. But
yeah, if you're willing to open up and share those things.
Some of that I would be. Some of that. So anyway.
I would love to hear if the listeners have any questions about anything that we've brought up during this episode, because we've definitely gone over a wide variety of things. Yeah,
get your Ouija board stories or even, your thoughts on any of this. Get it in the YouTube comments.
If you've used a Ouija board before, tell us what that was like.
Yeah, I want to know these stories. Like, get them in on the YouTube comments. Let people read this, see this. We'll read it on the air. We'll talk about
any experiences that you have had
with the
other
dead
side.
Yeah, with the other side. Yeah, not necessarily the Citrocra, but the other side. So let us know all about that.
Wait.
YouTube comments, Spotify comments. What do you got?
We have a new email address.
I was just going to get to that. Exactly. So, and this is one where we can just say it and it really kind of spells itself out. So it's questions@orx.email. Okay. So just questions@orx.email. Okay. Not .com, .email. And I was like, I want to use the FU, for follow-up, but I was like, maybe that's being too crass. I don't know. So I went with questions. Anyway, orx.email. What is that? Well, we're booting up Substack again. And so you can just go into that, and that's going to be...
It never went away.
No, it never went away. And you can sign up totally for free if you want. And that is going to be like, email is the technology that's just never going to die. Like social media and all this other stuff will come and go. Okay. Email is just a part of civilization as it exists right now. And I think it'll be like the last electronic communication technology to ever die. So it's the thing that it's the best way to make sure that no matter what happens, ZoZo or otherwise, I can get in touch with you. Nothing can stop email. Nothing can stop, the domain names I own and all that stuff. So orx.email, but questions@orx.email if you want to get your email in, and do sign up for the Substack. There's going to be a lot of action happening there as well.
Nothing's going to stop us now.
No. This is the most important podcast on the planet.
That's right.
All right, folks. We're going to wrap this one up with that. Get your stories into us. We'd love to read them and love to talk about them on air. And Ellen, of course, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, this was a great episode.
Yes.
I'm glad we had you here, our Kabbalist master.
I love it when she calls me master. It's the best. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, we will see all of you on the other side.
You just experienced Sexoterica. This show, while fun, includes extensive original research that is only possible by funding from people like you. Go to patreon.com/Sovryn if you'd like to donate. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, comment and subscribe or leave a review. From all of us at Sexoterica, we love you and we thank you. We really, really do.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
I'm testing too. How does this sound?
I think you sound great.
Thanks.
You look amazing.
You sound pretty good too.
I try. Been doing this for a little while.
How long?
A little over a decade. Actually, well over a decade now.
Wow, you've been sitting here that whole time?
This whole time I've been sitting in this very chair.
That's amazing.
I am. So are you.